There's something weird about pretending to be asleep. Your brain knows what's going on, your body plays dead, but your heart's just up there thumping against your ribs like it forgot it's in on the act. That night, my body stayed still under the covers, but every nerve in me was wide awake, because the moment he thought I was asleep, he did something I wasn't ready for. I'll back up. It started like a normal night, nothing unusual, just me and Caleb, sitting on opposite sides of the couch after a long-ass Tuesday. He'd gotten back from the gym, hair still damp, wearing that worn-in white tee that clung to his chest in all the ways that made it hard not to look. I'd just finished work and barely had the energy to lift the remote. We had this rhythm, you know? Him stretching out with one leg up on the coffee table, tossing me crap about my taste in movies, me pretending not to stare when his shirt rode up. It was friendly, comfortable, safe. At least it used to be. Caleb was my best friend. We'd met during freshman orientation 3 years ago, got randomly paired as roommates, and somehow just clicked. He was one of those guys who made you feel seen without even trying. Joked like a frat boy, but listened like a therapist. Straight. Hot. Way out of my league. I'd crushed on him, sure. Who wouldn't? But I kept that buried under years of inside jokes and late-night pizza runs. It was safer that way. Clean. Platonic. Except, lately he'd been different. The touches were longer. The eye contact lasted too long. I caught him watching me when he thought I wasn't paying attention. This kind of stare that felt too curious to be casual, but I told myself I was imagining it. Wishful thinking, nothing more. Anyway, that night, he crashed on the couch with me after a long day. We didn't talk much. Some dumb comedy was playing, but neither of us was really watching. At one point, his thigh brushed mine, and he didn't move it. Just left it there. I should have shifted. Should have said something. I didn't. Eventually, I said I was heading to bed, gave him the usual, "Night, man," and dragged myself down the hall, but sleep didn't come. I laid there in the dark, eyes closed, tossing around every weird moment we'd had over the past week. Him standing too close in the kitchen. That long look he gave me when I got out of the shower with just a towel on. The way he smiled when I teased him about never doing his laundry. Then I heard it. The creak of the floorboards. Soft. Careful. I felt him enter the room. The door didn't close. No light flicked on. He just stood there for a minute, like he wasn't sure what to do. I kept my breathing even. Slow. He thought I was asleep. The mattress shifted as he sat down on the edge of the bed. I could feel the heat of his body even though he wasn't touching me yet. I thought maybe he was about to grab his hoodie off the chair or ask if I'd seen his headphones or something, but he didn't say a word. Then I felt it, his hand. Light at first, brushing against my arm. Then, more certain, it slid up, slow, like he was memorizing the shape of me. I stayed frozen. Not because I was scared, but because I didn't know if I wanted it to stop. He leaned in. Close enough that I could feel his breath hit the back of my neck. Then he whispered something. So quiet I couldn't catch it all. Just my name, and then, "I'm sorry, I shouldn't," but he didn't pull away. Instead, his hand flattened on my side, and he rested his forehead against my back. That's when it hit me. This wasn't a mistake. He knew what he was doing. He wanted this. He just didn't know I did too. He stayed there for a while, just sitting on the edge of my bed, his hand warm through the thin fabric of my t-shirt, his forehead pressed between my shoulder blades. The weight of his touch wasn't heavy, but it was the most electric thing I'd ever felt. And still, I didn't move. I couldn't. Because the moment I did, whatever this was, this fragile, strange, vulnerable moment, would be over. And I wasn't ready for that. Eventually, he shifted. His hand slipped away, and I could feel him pull back slowly like he didn't want to break the silence. My heart dropped a little when he stood up, thinking he'd leave. But then, I heard him whisper my name again, softer this time. "Matt!" His voice cracked halfway through. I don't know what I'm doing. I wanted to turn over. I wanted to sit up, look at him, say, "Me neither." But something in me told me to wait. He hovered for a second. I could feel his indecision hanging in the air, thick and messy. Then the mattress dipped again, and suddenly he was lying beside me. Tentative, like he thought the bed might reject him if he moved too fast. I'd never had him this close. Not like this. I could feel the warmth of his chest at my back, just a breath away from contact. His breathing was uneven, shallow. Then came the softest touch. His hand on my side again, this time not moving. Just holding, like he was afraid he'd disappear if he let go. I let my body respond this time. Not much, just the slightest shift, enough to press back into him. It was subtle but deliberate. I felt him freeze for a second, then exhale. "Shit," he muttered under his breath, and then he wrapped his arm around me fully. Not like a joke, not like a bro hug or some half-asleep accident. This was intentional. His hand splayed across my stomach, and I felt his forehead against the back of my neck again. He didn't say anything else. He just breathed, in and out, a little shaky, like maybe he'd been holding this in for longer than either of us realized. My heart was doing cartwheels inside my chest, and I didn't know if I was supposed to say something, if I should pretend to wake up. But I didn't want to ruin it. So I laid there, letting the silence speak for both of us. Somewhere in the middle of the night, I must have drifted off, his arms still around me, his body flush against mine. When I woke up in the morning, he was gone. The bed was cold beside me, and the door to my room was slightly ajar. For a second, I wondered if I'd dreamed the whole thing. If the exhaustion and quiet longing I'd been carrying for years had finally gotten the best of me. But then I saw it, his hoodie on the chair. The one he always wore after the gym. He never left it there. And under the edge of my blanket, still warm, was a folded scrap of paper. Just 4 words written in his messy scrawl. "Did you feel that?" I stared at the note in my hands for way too long. Did you feel that? It wasn't just a question. It was a loaded, trembling thing. A confession disguised as curiosity. And the worst part? I had no idea what he expected me to do with it. I sat on the edge of my bed for a while, running my thumb over the edge of the paper, trying to figure out if I should text him, call him, pretend nothing happened, or walk straight into the living room and look him in the eye. Instead, I did none of those things. I got up, showered, got dressed, and tried to act normal, which was laughable because everything wasn't normal. I could still feel where his arm had been around me, like my skin hadn't moved on from it. By the time I walked into the kitchen, he was already there, leaning against the counter, scrolling on his phone like he hadn't spent the night wrapped around me. "Morning," he said without looking up. "Morning," I replied, reaching for a mug, trying to sound casual even though my voice felt too tight. He glanced at me, just briefly, and I caught it, that flicker in his eyes. The same look from last night, like he didn't know where we stood now. I almost pulled out the note right then and handed it back to him, but I couldn't. Not yet. Instead, I said, "You heading to class today?" He nodded, sipping from his protein shake. "Yeah, double lecture block." I nodded too. And just like that, we slid back into the familiar script of roommates coasting through a weekday. Except, it was all wrong now. Every word felt like a placeholder. Every silence too loud. As soon as he left, I sat back down on the couch and unfolded the note again. "Did you feel that?" Of course I did. I felt every second of it. Every shaky breath, every inch of his chest against my back, every moment of hesitation in his fingers. I thought about texting him back something direct. "We need to talk." Or, "I felt it." But both felt like too much. Or not enough. Instead, I decided I'd wait until he got home. I'd talk to him face to face, clear the air, get an answer. If not for him, then at least for myself. But the day dragged. And as night crept in and the apartment stayed empty, I started to worry. He hadn't texted, hadn't come back. His class should have ended hours ago. It wasn't until after 10 p.m. that the door finally opened. I looked up from the couch, heart pounding like it had been waiting for this moment all day. He stepped inside, looked at me, then froze. We just stared at each other. I held up the note between two fingers. "You left this." His jaw tightened. He didn't say anything, just set his bag down slowly, eyes fixed on the floor. "Do you want to talk about it?" I asked, my voice softer now. He nodded, but still didn't look at me. "Okay," I said, standing up. "Then talk to me, Caleb." Finally, he looked up. His face was flushed, like he'd been walking in the cold, or pacing around in circles for hours. "I don't know what last night was," he said. I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about stuff, about you, about how things feel different lately." "Different how?" I asked, even though I already knew. He rubbed the back of his neck. "I don't know, like I notice things. How you look at me sometimes. Or how I look at you." I thought maybe I was imagining it, but then I realized I didn't want to imagine it. I stepped closer, careful. "So last night, that was real," he said, cutting me off. "At least for me. I didn't plan it. I just needed to be close to you. I needed to know if it meant anything to you." I stared at him. "You thought I was asleep," I said. He gave a small, nervous laugh. "Yeah, kind of a coward move, huh?" I shook my head. "You asked me if I felt it." He looked up at me again. "I did," I said. Then, without thinking too much, I closed the space between us. I didn't kiss him. Not yet. I just stood there, close enough that our shoulders brushed. And this time, he didn't pull away. Neither of us said a word for a full minute. We just stood there, barely touching, not looking away. The kind of silence that feels like something big is about to happen. Not dramatic or loud. Just inevitable. I could see it in his face, that quiet tension, like he was one breath away from either running or reaching for me. I didn't give him the chance to choose. I reached up, just a little, and touched his forearm. Nothing intense, just grounding, letting him know I was there, that I wasn't afraid. "You didn't mess anything up," I said, reading the worry in his eyes. "If that's what you're thinking." He nodded, but his throat moved like he was swallowing something hard. "It just caught me off guard," I added. "You and me, this has always been a line I didn't think I was allowed to cross." Caleb let out a quiet breath. "Yeah," he said. "Same." There was a beat of silence before he added. "I kept telling myself it wasn't like that. That I just liked being around you because we were close. But it's not that." He finally looked at me again. "I don't think I've been honest with myself." My heart was pounding so loud, it drowned out the rest of the room. "You don't have to figure it all out right now," I said. "But I think we both know something's there." He nodded again, slower this time, like he wasn't fighting it anymore. Then he did something I wasn't expecting. He stepped closer, until our foreheads were touching. His hand slid around to the back of my neck, tentative but sure. "I want to stop pretending," he whispered, so I kissed him. It was careful at first, like we were both still scared we'd wake up, and it would all vanish. But then it deepened, like we were letting go of something we'd been holding back for way too long. His hands were in my hair, mine curled into the fabric of his hoodie. It wasn't perfect. Our teeth bumped, and we both kind of laughed into it, nervous and breathless. But it was real, so real it hurt a little. When we finally pulled apart, he pressed his forehead to mine again, eyes closed. "I didn't plan this," he murmured. "I know," I said, "but that doesn't make it any less real." We ended up on the couch, not doing anything, just curled up under the same throw blanket, legs tangled. His hand resting on my chest, like he needed to keep physical proof that I was there, that this was happening. Eventually, he said, "So what now?" I thought about that, about how different everything already felt, and how complicated things might get. But I also thought about the way he looked at me, the way he touched me when he thought I was asleep. Soft, scared, like I was something he wanted to protect. The way he said my name like it meant something more than it ever had. I turned toward him, my voice quiet but sure. "We stop pretending," I said. He nodded once, eyes steady. "Yeah," he said. "No more pretending." The next morning was awkward, but not in a bad way. More like the kind of awkward that happens when you wake up next to someone who used to just be your best friend, and now your legs are tangled under the same blanket, and his face is pressed against your shoulder. I woke up first. For a second, I didn't move. I just laid there, listening to his breathing, feeling the weight of his arms still draped across my stomach. It felt natural in a way that scared me a little, like it was always supposed to be like this, and we were the last two people to figure it out. His eyes fluttered open a minute later. He blinked a few times, like he was processing where he was and who he was touching. "Hey," I said softly. He gave a sleepy half smile. "Hey." We stared at each other in that quiet early morning haze for a bit, and then he groaned and covered his face with his hand. God, I thought it might have been a dream. Good or bad, he peeked at me through his fingers. Weirdly both, but mostly good. That made me smile. I wanted to say more, but I didn't want to rush it. There was something delicate about the moment, like we were both still testing the edges of this new thing we'd stepped into. Eventually, we got up and made coffee, barely saying anything. It wasn't tense. It was just quiet, like we were trying to act normal, even though everything was different now. He leaned against the counter, watching the coffee drip into the pot. "So, are we going to talk about this?" he asked without looking at me. I set 2 mugs down. "We probably should." He nodded. "Okay, cool. Because, last night wasn't just me being confused. Or bored. Or whatever." I leaned against the counter next to him. "Yeah, I didn't think it was. I mean, I don't know what this means. I'm still figuring it out. I just know it wasn't just about curiosity or some drunk impulse." I watched him as he stared at the floor, like he was waiting for me to shoot it all down. "Hey," I said, "you don't have to have all the answers right now. I'm not expecting you to suddenly, declare something." He looked up, eyes soft. "Then what are you expecting?" I took a breath. "Honesty," I said, "and effort." He gave a small nod. "I can do that." There was a long pause before he added, "I keep thinking about how you didn't move last night. When I touched you, I thought maybe I crossed a line." "You didn't," I said quickly. "I mean, yeah, it was a little confusing at first. But I didn't move because I didn't want it to stop." His eyes met mine again and something passed between us. Quiet, steady, and kind of terrifying. "I didn't think you'd feel the same," he said. "I didn't think you could feel the same." Guess we were both wrong. We stood there for a second, just letting the silence hold the rest. Then I handed him his coffee and said, "So what now?" He smiled. "Didn't we already say? No more pretending?" I grinned. Right, but part of me still wondered, how real could this be? How long would it last? Would it be just a one-time slip into something new, or the start of something neither of us could take back? I didn't know the answers yet, but I knew I wanted to find out, with him. The next few days felt like walking a tightrope between old routines and something dangerously new. On the surface, nothing had changed. We still split chores, took turns cooking, fought over Netflix, and yelled at each other about who forgot to buy toilet paper. But underneath, everything had shifted. It was in the way he looked at me now. Longer, softer, the way his fingers brushed mine and didn't pull away. The way his knees bumped mine when we sat on the couch, and how neither of us moved. It was subtle, but electric. Still, we hadn't kissed again since that night. I wasn't sure if he was waiting for me to make the next move, or if he was just taking his time. And I didn't want to rush him, not after how long it had probably taken him to even admit this to himself. But waiting had its limits. One night we were both in the living room, doing nothing important. He was scrolling his phone, stretched out on the couch, one arm behind his head. I was next to him, pretending to watch the dumb show playing on the screen, but mostly I was watching him. "Hey," I said, nudging his knee with mine. He glanced at me, eyebrows raised. "You good?" He hesitated for a second, then nodded. "Yeah, just thinking." "About?" He set his phone down and sat up a little. "About us. About how fast this is moving. Or not moving. I don't know. I'm just trying not to screw it up." "You're not," I said, more firmly than I expected. He looked at me, really looked, and then let out a breath. "I keep thinking about that night," he said. "How I waited until you were asleep. How I couldn't even say it to your face." "You didn't have to," I said. "I felt it. But I should have said something sooner. He paused, then chuckled. "I kept telling myself it would pass. That I was just confused. That maybe I was lonely. But it wasn't any of that." I nodded. "So what was it?" He swallowed, eyes locked on mine. "It was you." And just like that, my heart went quiet. Not still, but quiet. Like it had been holding its breath this whole time, and finally let go. I leaned in slowly, giving him every chance to pull back. He didn't. This time, the kiss was different. There was no hesitation, no nerves, just warmth, familiarity, something that felt a lot like home. When we pulled apart, he pressed his forehead to mine again, just like he had that first night. "I'm still figuring it out," he whispered. "I know," I said, "and I'm still here." That night, he didn't go back to his room. We lay in bed, facing each other in the dark, barely touching but not needing to. Every now and then, he'd reach out and graze his fingers against mine, like he was checking to see if I was still real. Eventually, he said, "I used to watch you sleep sometimes." I raised an eyebrow. "Creepy," he smiled, unbothered. "Not like that. I don't know. You always looked calm, peaceful, and I felt like I never was." I reached for his hand and laced our fingers together. "Do you now?" He didn't answer right away, but then he squeezed my hand once. "Yeah, I do. Whatever we were, it didn't have a label yet. And maybe that was okay. We weren't rushing into anything. We didn't sit down and have the talk, no big dramatic declaration. It was slower than that, messier, but real in a way I could feel in the smallest things, like how he'd casually start making enough coffee for two without asking, or how he'd reach for my hand under the table when we were studying, hidden from the world but not from each other. It was quiet, safe, something only we had, but it couldn't stay that way forever. The world outside our apartment didn't know what was happening between us, and that was starting to matter more than I thought it would. One afternoon, we were walking back from the grocery store, bags in hand, talking about nothing. Caleb made some dumb joke about cereal prices, and I instinctively bumped his shoulder, laughing. He grinned, then reached for my hand. But just before he touched it, we saw someone from his class coming up the street. He dropped his hand like it had been burned. The smile disappeared. I tried not to take it personally, but that moment sat with me, festered. That night, while we were folding laundry, I finally brought it up. "You don't have to hold my hand in public," I said, not looking at him, "but don't act like it didn't happen." He looked over, a sock still in his hand. "Is that what it felt like?" I nodded. "Yeah, kind of." He sat down on the edge of the couch, quiet for a second. "I'm not ashamed," he said. "I swear I'm not. I haven't figured out how to be this out there. It's still new to me." I sat next to him. "I get it, I do. But just let me know where you're at, okay? I can be patient. I just can't be invisible." He nodded slowly. "You're not. Not to me." His hand found mine again, this time with no hesitation. It didn't fix everything, but it was enough. Over the next couple weeks, things kept evolving. He got bolder, let his friends see us, sit close, share food, tease each other a little too intimately. No one said anything. If they noticed, they didn't make it a thing. And that felt like its own kind of progress. One night, after everyone left our place after game night, we were cleaning up when he stopped in the middle of stacking dishes and just looked at me. "I don't think I'm straight," he said. I froze, not because I was shocked, but because of how calmly he said it. I set the plates down. "Okay, I don't know exactly what I am," he went on, "but I know I feel more for you than I've ever felt for anyone, guy or girl." I walked over to him, wiped my hands on a towel, and wrapped my arms around him from behind. "That's all I need to know," I said. He leaned back into me, resting his head against my shoulder. "That night," he said softly, "when I thought you were asleep, I didn't know what I was looking for. I just knew I needed to be close to you." I kissed the top of his head. "You found it," I said. It was a Saturday morning when I realized we'd found our rhythm. Caleb was in the kitchen, shirtless in flannel pajama pants, trying to flip pancakes with one hand while scrolling through a playlist with the other. I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, watching him mutter curses under his breath as the pancake tore in half. "This is what domestic failure looks like," he said without turning around. "I don't know," I replied. "That looks like a perfectly torn circle of love." He looked over his shoulder, smirked. "Shut up." I walked over, took the spatula from him, and fixed the next one with a flick of the wrist. He watched, then gave this soft little smile, the kind I used to only see when he didn't think anyone was paying attention. We ate breakfast on the couch, legs stretched out, plates balanced on our laps. No pressure, no big talk, just comfort. It hit me then, in a way I hadn't felt fully until that moment. This was real. It wasn't just tension and confessions in the dark anymore. This was mornings and pancakes and silence that felt easy. Later that afternoon, we walked to the park. The leaves were starting to turn. There was a breeze in the air, kids running past, couples walking their dogs. It was the kind of day that felt like it was daring you to feel hopeful. Caleb reached for my hand. Not secretly, not like he was still hiding it. He laced our fingers together, looked straight ahead, and said, "I want to do this, all of it, for real." I squeezed his hand, smiling. "So do I." He was quiet for a minute, then said, "You know, I still think about that night." I looked at him, curious. "Yeah?" He nodded. "I didn't mean for it to happen like that. I was scared. I didn't think I had the right to feel what I felt for you." I stopped walking and pulled him toward me, one hand on his chest. "You had every right," I said, "and I'm glad you did." He leaned in, kissed me, right there on the sidewalk. No hesitation, no fear. And for once, I didn't think about who might be watching, or what came next, or whether this was too much or too fast. Because it felt right. The boy who used to sit across from me on our ratty old couch, who used to date girls and talk about them like it was the only thing he knew how to do, now stood in front of me, holding my hand like it was the most natural thing in the world. We went home later that day, curled up under the blanket on the couch, like we'd done 1,000 times before. Except now, he wasn't watching me secretly. He wasn't waiting until I was asleep to get close. He was right there, holding me like he meant it. And this time, I didn't have to pretend to be asleep, because he felt everything, and so did I.